But back to the subject of your audio to me with regards to Tapang, I just don't regard him. He just doesn't exist in the real scheme of things. He's just another comedian. And that's why you would notice that for the past 7 years, him, just like a whole lot of other people have said 1,000 things about me, I never bother to respond because in the great scheme of things, they just don't exist. He doesn't exist. And by the way, when you look back on what he said about taking over their struggle, it makes me laugh because I'm sure he knows, but in his dishonesty, like they generally are, he still goes out there and tells people that Agbobala handed the leadership of the struggle to him. But he knows it's not true, and everybody who knows that it's not true. I just really want to focus. Whatever little energy and time I have, I want to focus on things that matter. Comedy show, every now and then, if we have a bit of time, if we are bored, you're sitting in the terminal somewhere and you're waiting for your flight, you could listen to one comedy show or the other, but generally I don't listen to them. Good evening, big bro. Thank you so much for your voice note. I've taken the time to listen to it, and my apologies that I have only been able to revert to you now. It's been a bit crazy. I've spent the past 8 weeks on the field, and yeah, it's crazy. I'm really tired, and I'm just trying to wrap up quickly so that I can grab the first flight out of here as soon as possible. So yes, it's true. I haven't really paid attention to much of what is happening. And even when sometimes with an eye on things, I don't pay attention to the comedy that takes place in the struggle. It's always important to understand that our struggle has got a plot, and then it's got subplots. And a lot of the subplots are the comedy shows that a whole lot of comedians play out. And the tendency for our people to get distracted from the main plot by attending to the subplots is what gets us derailed every now and then. So I'm not having a lot of time. I try to focus on the main plot and just ignore the subplots and the comedy shows. So your voice note is just one of several calls or contacts I've had over the past few days, where people have contacted me, called me, and have you heard this? Tapang said this about you. And I'm like, Tapang, but Tapang has always said things about me, and I don't remember a single time that I've paid any attention to him, because as far as I'm concerned, he's so insignificant. He's the least of my worries. He's just another comedian. But a lot of push and people say, no, listen to this. And the truth is that I took the time, I think, was it last night or the night before, while I was doing other things, I kind of listened to this audio conversation that he was having with, what's his face. But, yeah, the long and short is that, I listened to it and it was a bare mention of my name. Otherwise, what I gathered from this conversation between the two of them is basically gloating over the misfortunes of a brother. But that's something we have become famous for. As Southern Cameroonians, we talk about wanting to liberate ourselves, and yet we are the ones who do anything in our power to destroy, to bring down a brother. And that's what we are. So listening to him talk, it was basically a reflection of I think who he is, but a lot a reflection of who we are in a general sense, which makes it unfortunate. Eric Tato is not an angel. He's again another comedian. Lots of stupid things he's done, but I wouldn't make it my business to gloat and celebrate over the fact that he's found himself in legal trouble. On the contrary, I think that out of this experience, he should learn some lessons, and just learn to be more discreet and keep a low profile, and hopefully that again You want to consider that he is innocent until proven guilty. That's as far as I can go with that. But back to the subject of your audio to me, with regards to Tapang. I really don't know what you want me to tell you or what you want me to say. The one thing that is clear for me is that I just don't regard him. He just doesn't exist in the real scheme of things. He's just another comedian. And that's why you would notice that for the past 7 years, I think, yes, it's been 7 years since this phase of our struggle. Him, just like a whole lot of other people, have said 1,000 things about me. I never bother to respond because in the great scheme of things, they just don't exist. He doesn't exist. If you would recall, a few years ago, I had actually made an exception and I responded to a statement that Mark Barretta. And the reason I responded is because it had nothing to do with me. But he made a statement that ran the risk of causing harm to some of my friends. If the most somebody can do to me is talk and fabricate stories, I ignore them because that's the most they can do. But the moment somebody does something that might harm one of mine, a friend of mine, a comrade of mine, a family member of mine, then there is a very strong risk that I'm going to act. I'm going to act on it. Otherwise, anything else you say, I tend to ignore. So just to say, I listened to the audio and there is really nothing to say. Absolutely nothing to say. It's none of my business what is going on. And by the way, when you look back on what he said about taking over their struggle, it makes me laugh because I'm sure he knows, but in his dishonesty, like they generally are, he still goes out there and tells people that Agbobala handed the leadership of the struggle to him. But he knows it's not true. And everybody knows. I think everybody who know that it's not true. Bala and Fontem were picked up before they could do anything. And John Ba Akuro, is the one who actually wrote the letter and published in the name of Bala. Now, John himself is one of those people who deserves to be hanged by the balls. But there is one person who, when the time comes, might most likely step forward and say, please forgive him. That I think that person would be me. Because for all his faults and for all the wrong things that he's done, there is one thing that he did for which I continue to say, he's not all bad. There's something, he did something for which we need to praise him, and for me it's a defining moment. The fact that he had the presence of mind at that moment when these leaders had been arrested to fabricate this letter and publish it in the name of Bala just to ensure that there was continuity in the struggle. There are defining moments in our struggle, and for me, I think that is one of those defining moments. It's just unfortunate that in the course of it, his greed also got the best of him, and it came out of the fact that, oh, it's our thing. And what happened? When they finally got to Nigeria, then he felt, okay, now we transferred this power to you, now you have to transfer it back to us. And of course, Tapang in his greed didn't think it was his thing and said, I'm not going to hand over. That's what caused it. And I think this is where we need to learn. I've seen this happen over and over and over in our struggle, that people don't realize that the struggle happens in phases, and that for each and every phase, we've got a role to play. Once your role is over, and your part, the part that you have to play is over, you have to gracefully bow out and let the next person take the baton. And understand that it's a relay race. And that as a relay race, you run your lap and you hand over the baton. The tendency has been to say, no, it's me, it's my thing, regardless of my circumstance, regardless of my position, regardless of whatever. It's my thing. I handed it to you. I gave it to you. And I think we all must take a leave from people like Niba Fontem, because he he's shown a lot of humility where I didn't see in many of these guys. If you look back at Fontem, Fontem could have, when he finally got the opportunity, come out and say, you know what, we are the ones who started this, so you have to hand it back to us. It's my thing. I don't remember he's ever made such a statement. Yes, he's pushed for rectification of the narrative. He's pushed for rectification of the direction we're taking. We may not always agree, but he's shown a humility that I've not seen in many of these people, let alone a comedian like Tapang, whose only contribution and the only reason he was selected was because at that point he was making a lot of noise on Facebook. Now, this is the problem. People don't understand that there is a difference between activism on Facebook and leadership, and that you may make as much noise as you make on Facebook. At the end of the day, you are not leadership material. He has no experience of leadership in any capacity, has never managed anything, nothing, just shouted on Facebook, and based on that he thinks he deserves leadership. Oh, we should go back to the way things were. But what if Bala comes back and says, no, you hand it over back to me because I gave you that opportunity? And then it becomes a matter of everybody. And then, of course, we'll go back to the likes of Pam Fongalamfo, who says, oh, before you guys came, we started it. And, of course, we may as well go back to Fongoji Dinka, who said, before any of you even acknowledged that there was a problem, I put it on the calendar, I put it on the map. So it's just... that's why you see I tend to ignore a whole lot of this, because for me, what we need right now is leadership. We need leadership. And when I say leadership, it's not about faking degrees and claiming titles and taking on titles and so on and saying I'm this, I'm that. It's about saying, here is our struggle. This is the way forward. And inspire the people to follow you. And inspire the people to start gaining some victories again. That is what you don't see. It's completely lacking, completely dead. But again, we will continue to have to deal with comedians like Tapang, who would come in every now and then and regret the beautiful old days when he was on Facebook and wish that we go back to those days. That's the reality of our struggle. Ultimately, real leadership is going to emerge. For now, it is my opinion that let them have the space. And I've always said it. If indeed they had something to contribute, I'm sure they would have. I'm sure they would have come up with a plan. Why do you want to go back to the Facebook days when there is a void right now and you could actually take on that void and show us leadership? Because there is no imagination, there is no creativity, there is no experience, there is no antecedent of what has been done before. It's just a phase during which somebody wrote a letter and handed it to you. So I tend to ignore a lot of this. So let them have, this is the space, let them take the space, let them lead us. Whoever takes us to Boya, we will all be jumping and happy that we finally got there. As it stands, I don't see anybody. We still have a long struggle ahead. And I think there is still a lot of work to be done. We've gone through the phase of sabotage and lies and subterfuge and, everything, character assassination. And people were doing this because they thought Boya was 2 weeks away. So you do this, you get everybody out of the way, you sabotage and character assassinate and destroy everybody's reputation. That way, when we get to Boya in 2 weeks, I'll be the only cock in the compound. And here we are. Anybody who has done any kind of study of struggles would know that no struggle happens in a few months and then you get to freedom. It takes time. And part of that taking time is building character, building a personality over time. Once again, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, which a lot of our brothers don't understand. So we will definitely reconstruct Southern Cameroons, and we will definitely not construct it with comedians. Does that mean comedians don't have their place? Of course not. I think everybody has got a place and a role to play. It's just important that people know their place. And your place as a comedian cannot be in trying to lead the people. Your place as a comedian is to do comedy shows and inspire the people sometimes, which I think is also very important. The problem we have is that people tend to confuse and confound the little roles they are playing with great leadership roles. I don't want to go into the whole debacle of how even at that point we invited Tapang and Mark to be part of the conclaves, the first and second conclaves. Personally called them, sent them, I reached out to them personally, sent them invites, asked them to be part of this, because it was very clear that apart from shouting on Facebook, they had no clue what else to do. And we understood exactly what we needed to do to move things forward. Of course, they refused because it was their thing. Now we think we baladon giam for we. Now we think balabi giam for we, so now we think. And then it ends there. And I don't remember that anybody took away that thing from them. I don't remember that at any point they actually came up and said, you know what, we realize that this thing is not ours. We're giving it back. We're going to take the thing. If I remember very well, Tapang fought with Tasang and John Akuro until the very bitter end, and then realized that he just had nothing to offer and gave up. So you cannot come and claim something that you never gave. You never gave it, so you cannot come and ask to be given back. If it was that he had given, then one would understand. So, big bro, sorry. Let me not take too much of your own time with my long voice note, but simply let you know that I tend to ignore a lot of this. I've got so much to do, and I just really want to focus whatever little energy and time I have. I want to focus on things that matter. Comedy show every now and then. If we have a bit of time, if we are bored, you're sitting in the terminal somewhere and you're waiting for your flight, you could listen to one comedy show or the other, but generally I don't listen to them. So thank you very much and have a great evening. Bye-bye.